Housing affordability has proven to be one of the more prevalent aspects of an American's life within the first quarter of the century and has only become a worse problem in recent years. After the housing market crash of 2008, the ability for people to afford homes became drastically more difficult, leaving millions of people with unstable living conditions or homeless. Now, almost 20 years after the fact, people are still struggling to pay the bills, or in some cases, simply can't. There are many reasons as to why somebody might not be able to afford a home. For starters, as the years have gone by, inflation has practically skyrocketed in the US, so fast that many low-wage businesses have not updated their pay rate. Minimum wage jobs are worked by many Americans, and these people often live paycheck to paycheck. Balancing housing bills, including water, electric, and taxes, with keeping food on the table shifts priorities away from maintaining a house to simply surviving with what little money there is. Another reason for struggle is the fact that the rental home market has become more high stakes, leaving less housing for lower income Americans. Due to the major uptick in prices for the house market, buying a house has left bigger dents in pockets than ever before. Renting, the more affordable alternative to buying, has become more popular after the 2008 crash. In the CBS Eye on America episode addressing the housing crisis and homeowners' rights, it was said that 86% of American renters can't afford a home, and 54% don't think they ever will. The saturation of the renting market has been largely due to the middle class flocking to renting, leaving less homes for the lower income Americans. In the city of Dallas, according to the WFAA, there are 10,000 fewer rental units available for $1,000 or less per month compared to 2017, the study said. By contrast, the number of units available for $1,500 or more has increased by 66,000. These statistics show the clear struggle that there is in finding even a temporary place for people to live, and how people are often rendered homeless. Personal issues can also contribute to people's living situation, including addictions or mental issues. When people are homeless, infection, disease, and mental illness tend to go untreated, further worsening living situations, and even threatening a person's life. Experiencing homelessness while also struggling with these issues feeds to the vicious cycle of the inability to bring in income or ultimately find shelter, which is why it has been deemed such a problem in the United States. In the article, Homelessness and the Crisis of Affordable Housing, the Abandonment of a Federal Housing Policy from 2016, it is said that more than 500,000 people in the United States are homeless every night. These numbers are a testament to the failure of the housing market, as well as the ability for jobs to provide sufficient income for people. While cities recognize this as an issue, their solutions are not effective. In many cities, hostile architecture has been put in place to limit the ability of homeless people to sleep in public areas. In the same CBS Eye on America episode, it is said that the city of LA has banned people from sleeping outside in the city. It is also said that 49% of America's homeless population lives in California, 45,000 of which live in LA. From these three factors of inflation, renting, and reasons for homelessness, the groups most affected by housing affordability tend to be lower income Americans. Whether that means families, marginalized communities, or just individuals who struggle financially, this group has been widely affected by the inability to afford a home. While many people have turned their backs on the issue, some people have begun addressing and attempting to solve aspects of it. In Dallas, where the issue has become much worse over time, attention on the affordability of housing has become much more prevalent. Recently, City Council convened and heard from various speakers about the issue, including the Operation Tiny House founder, Valerie Ballard, who, as covered by CBS, stated, "If we put 10 times more money into our parks than we do into housing," scolded Myers, "the message we're sending, whether we mean it or not, is that we either don't believe affordable housing is a problem in Dallas or we don't care." This call to action urges the city of Dallas to do something effective and worthwhile about the issue. Similarly, as covered in the Eye of America episode, the mayor of LA is taking strides to provide more shelter for the homeless. This is to be done by building more housing, but in the meantime, sheltering homeless people in empty motels or buildings so that they are out of the streets. The efforts that both cities are making might take decades, but the first step to ending homelessness and issues with housing affordability is addressing and sheltering those affected. So, using multiple factors from Catholic social teaching, including the 7 themes of Catholic social teaching, a social encyclical, and a beatitude, you can see that caring for the homeless and people struggling with housing affordability is actually something that people, specifically Catholics, are called to do. Using one of the Catholic social teaching themes, option for the poor and vulnerable, you can see that people who are struggling with housing or are homeless or are lower income are qualified to be considered poor or vulnerable. We are called by the Bible, specifically from the story of the Last Judgment, where we are instructed to put the poor and vulnerable first. So during the Last Judgment, you are called as a Christian to care for the poor and vulnerable, meaning it is something that is considered when you go to heaven. So care for those people, man. And then a social encyclical that I would be using would be Fratelli Tutti from 2020, written by Pope Francis, which was kind of a pulse on the people during the pandemic and was kind of like, keep it up, y'all, but also like, let's like love each other and everything. And some of those people that needed to be loved in that case were people who were in stressful economic situations. So some quotes from that specifically would be, if a society is governed primarily by the criteria of market freedom and efficiency, there is no place for such persons, and fraternity will remain just another vague ideal. So what he's talking about here is people who don't have a lot of economic freedom aren't really considered in societies to be of value, which is not true, because all people are supposed to be valued by means of the Catholic Church, Christianity, etc. Like, it's your human right to be like economically free, but those people, if they don't have economic freedom, are still valued. He's calling people to make more room for those people in society. So that would also include making more room for people who struggle with affording a home, and also people who struggle with homelessness. And then also, a truly human and fraternal society will be capable of ensuring in an efficient and stable way that each of its members is accompanied at every stage of life, not only providing for their basic needs, but by also enabling them to give the best of themselves, even though their performance may be less than optimum, their pace slow, or their efficiency limited. So he's kind of including like people with disabilities, and also old people, young people, people who are not the most efficient workers. They are still people. They also still contribute to society in some way, and at least they are called to by Catholic social teaching, but they are considered part of society. He's calling basically people to be accompanied at every stage of life, like to be supported by people at every stage of their life. And even if that means you are struggling with homelessness or addiction, or literally any stressful situation, like affording a home would be one very specific example, you are you're supposed to help those people. So you are called as a person in the Catholic Church to help those people. So it's supposed to matter to you that people are struggling with these things, because you are supposed to be helping them. I use the first beatitude, which is as quoted in Matthew chapter 5 verse 3, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And it's basically saying people who struggle with poverty are blessed by Jesus and are promised a future in heaven. Those who struggle on earth follow Jesus are guaranteed a death that brings rest and comfort. And this also inadvertently urges those in positions of ability or positions of they can do it to help the poor, to ease their burden while they live. So you are called as a Christian to help these people out, because it's like your job. Please do it. What is at stake for you and for these people who are struggling with housing affordability and homelessness? People and their livelihoods are at stake. Families, relationships, and community are torn apart due to the stress over bills and making ends meet. People live day to day wondering if they can afford dinner and rent at the same time. Some people don't know where they are going to sleep that night. In fear of being chased away like animals from public places, human dignity is stripped from people as you are denying people to the privacy and security of a home. People who are victim to these issues are your neighbors. They are people and human beings who are entitled to the same rights as you are. You are judged by God based on not only your spiritual devotion, but also how you treat others. If you do not care about the poor and vulnerable, you do not care about your outcome. If nothing is done about this, people will continue to struggle in vain, paying bills for a house they can't afford or endlessly searching for one that they can, or eventually just giving up. The house prices will only increase unchecked and unavailable to those in need. Homeless camps will only get larger, leading cities to take yet another living space from them. The more of them there are, the more of an issue they will be deemed, something for them to remove and then move on from, further dehumanizing homeless individuals. I have a few things in mind for social action. So, for starters, on more of the charity side, I would say there needs to be more shelters. There needs to be more spaces where people can go if they are homeless or if they cannot afford a house. If cities don't want people on the street or in public spaces, then there's not really anywhere else they can go. And if shelters are overflowing, that is an actual problem, because where are you going to put them? What are you going to do with them? They have to go somewhere. So there has to be more of those for the meantime. This is not a end all be all solution, but it is something that needs to be done in order for more change to be done. Secondly, on the topic of charity, I would like people to donate to more shelters, especially local ones, because if it is a local shelter that you are donating to, you are directly contributing to people in your area. For example, in the Dallas area, there is Genesis Women's Shelter, which helps women and children. You can donate furniture and you can donate clothing. I think they even take cars sometimes, children's toys, maternity stuff. All of that is necessary for people to live an actual life. While they are at the shelters, they're not always being fully equipped with the stuff that they need to survive or keep them on their feet. They're usually just given food and a place to sleep, which is not everything that you need to survive as a human being, especially if you have children or you are a woman. And then more on the justice side of things, more long-term visions that I have, I'd say raise the minimum wage, because this kind of needs to happen, because for people to afford homes or rent homes or even think about having a home, people need more money to pay for them. And since inflation has gotten a lot higher and businesses have not followed through with that, people are being paid like $7.50 an hour. If they have a house, they're spending that on electric, they're spending that on gas, they're spending that on water, they're spending that on heating and cooling, they're spending that on children if they have any, they're spending that on actual maintaining of the house. There's a lot of money that goes into that. And then they also have to feed themselves. So along the way, you're not going to have that much money. And then also, I would recommend that shelters start working with rehabilitation programs and like start listing places for people to work, and also become more involved in the effort of keeping people off the streets. Like, I get you're a shelter, but I feel like more effort should be put in keeping those people out of your shelter and in the workforce and in homes. You don't want to be seeing familiar faces at a shelter, because then, no. What I mean by like rehabilitation programs, I feel like specifically in Dallas, there's a lot of people who experience homelessness who are also addicted to drugs or have mental issues. If someone in a shelter is experiencing one of those two things, there should be at least more available options to them than just a shelter. Like, you could send them somewhere else for better help. There's only so much you can do as a shelter for individuals, and I feel like there should be more outreach to better places for these people. Giving people the skills to apply for jobs, get jobs, keep jobs should be something, because if you can provide for yourself with a job, then you can basically live on your own. But if you are stuck stranded at a shelter because you are not equipped with the knowledge or the abilities or the outreach for these things, then you aren't exactly benefiting from your stay at the shelter other than food and a night's rest. Lastly, let's get some more lower income housing for some lower income people. No reason you should be working a job and you can't afford a place to live. What do you think what do you think I'm getting all this money for? This needs to be done sooner rather than later, because these people have jobs, most likely have education of some sort, probably have a high school education. They're educated enough and qualified enough for a job, and yet they do not have a place to live. Something is not adding up. Section 8 housing, I would recommend more of that, because specifically in Dallas, dude, there are so many people living in the Dallas Metroplex, and there are so many houses and apartments and places in the Metroplex as to which you could turn into Section 8 housing. Hey, it's a house. So I would highly recommend adding more Section 8 housing and more affordable living spaces for people of lower income stature.